A pleasant good morning to you, Mr. Gary Griffith. A pleasant good morning to you.
Hi, good morning to you, gentlemen, and good morning to your many listeners.
Nice. Lennox Smith, this morning, what did we call Mr. Gary Griffith, former
It is clear. It is clear. The commissioner of police, the titular, the existential one, she has responded to Kamala Prasad Bissasa's statement about
Tobago,
of,
Tobago.
of duty officers who carrying arms, one, and of course a sudden should I say deployment of officers to Tobago. I know that as a former commissioner, as one in the military, and as one, of course, very schooled in law enforcement, you would have an opinion on those matters and some of the what I consider to be bases for making those decisions. So you can begin anywhere you wish, but those are the parameters that we would want to discuss this morning, Mr. Gary Griffith.
Sure, certainly, gentlemen. So let me see how concise I can make this. So the first thing, as it pertained to Kamala Prasad Bissasa's statement about issuing firearms to law enforcement officials, I mean, I welcome it. That is common sense. That is what should have been done. In fact, in the 6,000 firearms I issued in my 3 years, only about 3,000 would have been to civilians. I was doing exactly what she spoke about. So she is on track. So for every civilian that got a firearm, based on going through the proper process, we would have given one to a police officer, a customs officer, immigration officer, fire officer, soldier, sailor, prison officer, because we understood the importance. We have a backward system in this country where every time the police officer or prison officer and he ends his duty, he has to return the weapon into the station. And now he is at risk because he can be targeted. So what she's saying is spot on. It is exactly what I said a month ago. I said that a month ago that with the change of the government, I intend to ensure that law enforcement officials will have the ability to have a firearm to protect themselves when they're off duty. Obviously, this let me quickly add, this is how the government operates. So even though the comments by Kamala Prasad Bissessa are identical to what I said a month ago, is accurate, what they will try to throw now is a red herring, where they will say, you see, Kamala want to give a gun to every police officer, they might have rogue elements. That is not what she's saying. They try to pick things to try to discredit the comments that she will make. So she's not, I know what she's trying to say. She's not trying to say that every single police officer, obviously will do the due diligence, he will do the background check, you will find out if this person is a little questionable character. So that is what they will use. So let me do it in advance to prevent the stupidity that's going to go on a PNM platform that Kamala want to give gun to bad police officers. That's not what she said. The second thing, when she also spoke about the importance of police firing using full force to defend themselves, what she was alluding to was to ensure that police officers must be prepared to defend themselves if it is that they are targeted. And this is what I said as a commissioner of police when I spoke about one shot, one kill, and certain persons were upset because they thought we have this backward system. Well, maybe you should shoot the man in his leg or his foot. No, it's a head or body shot. One shot, one kill. Because if somebody is trying to kill a police officer, it is the right of the police officer to neutralize the person. There's no target when you go on a range that has a leg or an arm to shoot at. It's your head and your chest. So that is what she was speaking about. What they will do now is to change it to give it the impression that she's trying to say that police must just take an automatic weapon and just riddle a man if he's crossing the road in a bad manner, or if he broke the law in any way. That is not what she said. So I think what is important is that she will, unfortunately, because the UNC doesn't have a national security expert to be able to speak in a certain manner, what the PNM they do is to utilize those windows to try to discredit very powerful and potent comments being made by the UNC at this time. And it goes on, even the stand your ground. The stand your ground, it gives the impression that what the UNC is stating is that if a man jump over a wall to steal a mango, it gives you a right to take an automatic weapon and riddle him, because that is where they will pick up that stand your ground. What should be said is that what she's alluding to is that persons must have a right to defend themselves if it is that their life is under threat. In this situation, somebody might have a cutlass and run up your house and you have a firearm and you shoot the person. They may very well charge you for manslaughter because you didn't use equal force. You're supposed to go and be running under your bed to look for a cutlass equivalent force to what the threat is, and that is stupidity. So it is the wording that they try to utilize. As it pertains to the situation in Tobago, you can't be dumber than this. That is why Keith Rowley spends more time saying that he is the chair of the National Security Council and saying he's the Prime Minister. He gives this impression of a James Bond theory. But this is the problem that we have this should not be a banana republic. We have 5 politicians who are in a National Security Council. Not one of them have training, qualification, or experience in senior police management, law enforcement, or criminological theory. So what they do is knee-jerk, stupid comments, actions with no substance. This is why for the last 3 years, 90% of the work done by the National Security Council has been on total witch hunting, fishing expeditions to try to find and arrest firearm dealers, firearm owners, police officers as it pertains to issuing legal firearms. And not one policy program or anything implemented by this National Security Council to deal what has contributed to 100% of murders in the last year by firearms, which is illegal firearms. So in this situation now, this is not yet another knee-jerk attempt. Somebody whispers something to Keith, hey, Keith, you know, let's send the GB to Tobago because of crime. Yeah, but yeah, that's something good. That's something good. And that is the stupidity. The Guard and Emergency Branch and these type of units, they are there for what is known as overt operations, counter-terrorist operations, dealing with crowds, riots, crowd control, right? And that type of equipment and that you will see by the GB and these units, it is to deal with overt operations where it is that you will have volatile situations with the crowd coming on, criminal elements coming to face you, the criminals, the police officers head on. And these units, by the way, don't get me wrong, they are some of the best in the world as it pertains to that type of policing that is required. So that's why they are very effective in major carnival events, major carnival fetes for carnival periods, where it is they have lots of people or persons who may try to deliberately affect the country. That GB, by the way, should have been given medals for what they achieved during the pandemic. We had about 150 men coming down into Port of Spain to destroy Port of Spain. And that GB, because of their training and their expertise, they were able to peg them back and send them back down into Duke Street to prevent Port of Spain from being destroyed, similar to 1990. Not one word of congratulation by the Prime Minister. Instead, what he decided to do was to give a national award for 5 people from the Ministry of Health, who every single week told people, wear your mask, social distancing, and wash your hands, and you get a medal for that. But these GB men put their lives on the line to prevent Port of Spain from being destroyed. So that's how great the GB is. However, that is not the type of security that is required in Tobago. This is not criminal elements coming brazen, full force, attacking the police, and the police are now forced to defend themselves and to fight fire with fire. The type of criminal activity in Tobago involves hit and run. It involves the criminals going in looking for the soft targets, and with that, the GB will serve no purpose. It is cosmetic. This is not about trying to increase quantity, it is to improve quality. So what is required is more so to deal with intelligence gathering policing, predictive policing, trying to find covert operatives, getting the public to assist the police in Tobago, putting systems to prevent illegal weapons from entering Tobago, such as the mobile scanners that I provided, and they decided to shut it down. It is so ridiculous. If somebody wants to go to Tobago, check if anybody wants to test me to the PNM till you're dead, you go into Tobago on the boat, you have to go through the walk-through scanner. But you go with your car, it drives straight through. So a man could go with 25 assault weapons in the trunk. It's not being checked. But if you're walking through, you have to go through the walk-through scanner. It makes no sense. What we're supposed to do is to check every single vehicle that enters, that goes into Tobago. We have the mobile scanners, which means that if the vehicle will pass, you will be able to pinpoint if there are drugs or weapons in that vehicle. That is not being used. We're supposed to use K9 to make sure that drugs and weapons will not be going through the Tobago through the vehicles. We're supposed to put covert operatives on the boats. I drafted the police marine unit. I got damning vessels through the People's Partnership as the Minister of National Security. One was supposed to be assigned to Tobago to lock down the borders to prevent the illegal entry of vessels entering Tobago without being checked. That is how you secure Tobago. We had, under the People's Partnership, I formed the National Operations Center arm. We were setting up a 9 999 system, where presently in Tobago, you call 999, it has to go to the Trinidad station office, and then they will call a police station in Tobago to tell you that somebody is robbing you. By that time, the man has already been back in Trinidad. That is how ridiculous it is. Those are the things that are required. Having an operational command center to monitor the cameras in Tobago, to make sure you can have an emergency response patrol that was also there. They shut down the emergency response patrol in Tobago. They shut down the National Operations Center, the Commissioner's Command Center. They do not use the police marine units as we should. They have not sent the damn vessel across after 10 years. The list goes on and on.
Wow.
So the GB, it just shows the incompetence of Keith Rowley and the PNM.
Hold 1 minute. I want to, that is why I wanted to do, acknowledge Michael, Mikey K, my co-host is on too. Mikey, a pleasant good morning to you.
Gary. Morning. Gary,
Hey, good morning.
I want to go back to your point there where the opposition or opposing voices need to control their narrative. It's very important because otherwise mainstream media is going to take you down a path. Because here it is that you have the commissioner of police saying that if a police officer has to use force in the performance of his duty, it must be necessary, legal, and appropriate. This is not what Kamla Prasad-Bissessar was alluding to. She was talking, just as you said earlier. Are you telling me that if officers come under fire, where you have individuals behind a galvanized structure by the name of shooter, cannon, and whatever, are you telling me that they have to stop and say, I wonder if returning fire is necessary? Is this legal? Will this be viewed as appropriate? That is not what she was saying. And one would think that this morning, the commissioner of police will be standing side by side, sending a message to the officers, the rank and file, that I want you to go home after your shift to your loved ones, your family, wherever. I want you to be alive. And if you do come under fire, yes, you need to return fire. And if we don't control these narratives, Gary, you are so correct, then people are going to get the wrong idea of what is being said.
And I like what you said here, Mikey and Gary. Yes, what you just mentioned about Tobago, because remember, Tobago is being hoaxed. They're getting hoaxed by this ploy that's going to happen there. What was the things that you had put in place? Because I hear about was going to put in place, because I hear about, which is true, people can walk on the boat. When you're walking in, you had to be scanned. When you're going with your vehicles, not a scan, nothing. A man could have cocaine, a whole chunk load of assault weapons and all those various things. So go back again and just define that aspect of how you would have put, or the things that you had in place for Tobago, because Tobago had to understand they're being hoaxed. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, so we need to go back to the People's Partnership period. So there are things that I would put in policy as a Minister of National Security under the People's Partnership, and then things I did operational as the Commissioner. Under the People's Partnership, we set up an operational command center, and this ensures that we can be monitoring all the cameras to ensure that we'll be seeing things that will be happening in real time. We then also formed the Rapid Response Unit. That Rapid Response Unit ensured a 5-minute response to most calls in Tobago. We were then setting up and transforming the 999 system, that you don't have this outdated nonsense that a Tobagonian will call 999 and that call goes to the St. James Barracks police station, and the St. James Barracks 999 system will now call a police station in Tobago, which was ridiculous. We then also formed the Community Comfort Patrol. We then also had systems where we started putting covert operatives in Tobago. So those are the things that we would have done under the People's Partnership. We then were also, and then as a Commissioner of Police, I was setting up a proper DNA system to ensure that when it is that there's a crime scene, you won't wait 7 years for to pinpoint who is the perpetrator. You will get it within 7 days, and that is the back, and that is what has caused the backlog. As similar as Commissioner, let me go back to the People's Partnership. When it is you hear the PNM talking this nonsense about the OPV, I still am challenging anybody that's listening in the PNM, debate with me on the OPV. The OPVs cost $2.4 billion. That's 2,400 million. As the security advisor, I did research and I got quotes from Israel, Colombia, and Korea. And the exact model of the OPV, we were getting it I was getting it from them for $1.2 billion. That is $1,200 million less. I asked anybody in the country, when you finish listening to this show, type BAE/corruption. BAE is where we were purchasing the vessels from. 17 countries have sued BAE for paying kickback to government officials. And that is what they're still talking OPV 15 years later. So the fact is that I was able to acquire Damen vessels that is used in 17 other countries in the world, and these vessels would the cost was 1.2 billion less than the OPVs to do the exact things that the OPVs could have done. And in these 6 Damen vessels, at least one would have been stationed in Tobago to secure Tobago. 10 years since we purchased those vessels under the Kamala Persad-Bissessar administration, it has not been sent to Tobago because they've not set up the systems. I then drafted the police marine branch to lock down Tobago and to secure Tobago from the illegal entry of vessels entering with weapons and drugs. I then drafted the border protection unit because Keith Rowley is totally ignorant of national security. Showed him the importance of a border protection unit to secure our borders from the legitimate ports of entry, both of international vessels entering Trinidad's legitimate port and also Tobago, because that is where we get any problems in Tobago, by putting a border protection unit comprising polygraphed officers from the Army, Coast Guard, Customs, Immigration, Police, and then making sure we monitor the borders entering from Trinidad to Tobago, both from the ports and the airport. I also provided the mobile scanners so that every vehicle that enters the port, it can be checked with the mobile scanner to see if weapons or drugs are there. They shut that down after I left. I then made the plea to get K9s to put in Tobago on the port to be able to monitor weapons and drugs. Also formed an undercover unit. And more importantly, I sent the Special Operation Response Team, SORT. When SORT went there, we pegged back the criminals. The bad eggs went back to Trinidad because we thought they were instrumental, because SORT wasn't just a GB. SORT had a strong intelligence unit that was able to pinpoint the perpetrators, get the information, and put clinical operations. And that is what was required. You shut down SORT. You never use the Damen vessels. You did not put the police marine branch of the substance it should in Tobago. You moved you didn't use the mobile scanners that we wanted. You ignored the border protection unit. You shut down the rapid response unit. You shut down the emergency response patrol. You continue to have the 999 system in St. James Barracks for Tobago calls. You shut down the operational command center. And so almost every single thing Keith Rowley's administration has shut down or dismantled for Tobago. And his game plan is to send the GB with riot shields to go and look for criminals.
Wow, Mikey.
Gary, I'm getting the impression that Farley's call or suggestion of developing a Tobago-centric police force is as a consequence of recognizing these deficiencies. Would you want to comment on that before I ask my other final question?
Yeah, no, definitely. You see, what Farley is looking at is similar to Trinidad. Remember, Trinidad has something known as municipal policing because we have regional corporations. So we have our local government elections where mayors are selected, where aldermen selected, councillors, they have municipal police that gives the mayor, the councillors, the borough, the corporation that degree of involvement in policing to assist them in patrolling, in having police to secure markets, the cities, the towns, traffic congestion, and so forth. Tobago doesn't have a municipal police because Tobago does not have regional corporations. So the equivalent, if you want to put, of the THA would be the regional corporations. So whereas in Trinidad, you have the municipal police. What he's trying to get is something that equates with the municipal police in Trinidad, which would be traffic congestion. It will assist in petty crime that may take place in the towns, in the cities, in Tobago, dealing with looking at going to the markets, patrolling. So that is a good type of on the ground policing that is required. I will strongly recommend, however, that it must be linked with the TTPS in Tobago, because that is the problem that I had in Trinidad, where you have the municipal police and there was not that synergy, that link between the municipal police and the Trinidad police. So, for example, you will have a major event in Woodford Square, and you require 20 police officers. Municipal police will send 20, and the TTPS Port of Spain Division will send 20 because they know one hand they know what the other was doing. So it is hoped that this year will provide some degree of synergy. However, it would require some degree of parliamentary approval, and whether it is that the government will have that foresight and political maturity to approve it, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. And the final question for me is no question on this matter could be completed without, of course, looking at your views on the SSA and the development, of course, sub judice notwithstanding, because I understand that 3 persons were in fact charged. But what is your understanding there? Because there's a certain amount of disquiet and discomfort coming out of that among the population as to understanding what really transpired there.
All right, so let me tell you quickly. Trinidad and Tobago, this was yet another desperate attempt to get Gary. That is what it was. If you recall, the first comments made by the Prime Minister, it alluded to the fact that a senior commissioner of police was given firearms to the SSA to a cabinet to approve it. You remember that? That was me. Somebody whispered, hey, we catch Gary finally. Gary went and gave gun to the SSA. And as dumb as they were, they did not understand that I am very qualified in national security and understanding the law. Why would a commissioner give firearms to a civilian organization? So that's what I said. This was a lie. At no time did the police ever give firearms to the SSA. This was 6 police officers being issued firearms that belong to the police. If it is that a police officer in Kamuto inadvertently decided to hand it over to the security manager of the SSA, and that person is a civilian, well, then an error would have been made. And the police officers kept the weapons without my approval as a keep and carry, which is required. Well, then they may have made a mistake. But to come now and say that there was a massive two police officers out of 3 got charged, and that is what caused you to virtually shut down the SSA. You have fired the director of the SSA, and up to now the man has done nothing wrong because it has been cleared. Because of their stupidity, they heard that Roger Best had an assault weapon, and they figure, he's a civilian, Gary give Roger it. Not realizing, as stupid as they were in their desperate attempt to go after Gary Griffith, they didn't realize that this man was a member of the defense force serving in the reserves, which gave him the authority to have that type of weapon if it was approved by the chief of defense staff, similar to police officers getting approval from the commissioner of police. So Roger Best has done nothing wrong. They then tried to lie to the country to say, well, he hired people that weren't qualified. They were qualified. I challenge the government to show who was fired that was not qualified. So the SSA had 400 people. The man hired about 4 or 5 who were religious, and that becomes something bad. So it seems that we must have devil worshippers to be in the SSA. It shows yet again. So you remove the commissioner of police and the director of the SSA, who are the 2 people who are instrumental to ensure that the right people have access to intercept equipment. By removing these 2 and putting who probably you want, it means that our intercept equipment can be virtually compromised by politicians. And now let me just quickly add again with what Mikey said. I want to re-emphasize, Kamala Persad-Bissessor's comments continue to be something that is logical, but unless it is that she becomes very meticulous in her words, the PNM will take it. And like a dog bites a man, they will change it wrong to see the man by the dog. So that is where when she speaks about stand your ground, they try to make it feel that anytime somebody steals your mango, she's saying you have a right to shoot them. That is not what she's saying. She's saying that the people must have a right in your home to defend yourself. Then when she's speaking about the police must use full force. Before I became commissioner, there was an incident in Chaguanas. For 3 hours, there was gunplay, and the police did not want to go in. And I said that no street, no corner, no neighborhood must belong to criminal elements. The police will go in there, and which is why I spoke about the 1 shot, 1 kill. It doesn't mean that she's trying to say that the police must go in there and use an assault weapon to kill somebody if he has a nail clipper. So these are, and then when she spoke about giving firearms to police officers off duty, it doesn't mean to give to every single one. So what she'll need to do is to be very meticulous in what she says, because the PNM will use that little window to turn the whole thing around and misinterpret the intention of the message.
Mikey.
Yeah, and Gary, finally from me, Gary, Mr. Munilal called for the development of a specialized multi-divisional unit in the TS to deal with extortion by gang members. This seems to be rearing its head, this whole issue of extortion. What say you?
Well, again, he is correct, but this was shut down by the PNM. It seems that the decisions made by the PNM have always been instrumental to benefit the criminals. You notice their concern has always been about not getting law-abiding citizens to have legal firearms, refusing for them to get pepper spray, not putting efforts in place to stop illegal weapons. So the same thing happened. What Member of Parliament Munilal spoke about is what we had with the Special Operation Response Team. Trinidad and Tobago, you recall any type of extortion in 2018 or 2021? No, because what we did is that somebody will be involved in extortion. They contact me through 482 Gary. I will contact the Special Operation Response Team. We send covert operatives. I'll give you a simple example. They were building bleachers in South Key, and the criminal elements will come in there by the contractors and say, unless you hire us, we're going to shut it down. You will not be able to build the bleachers for Carnival. We send undercover operatives. They stood up there. They waited. They came. They tried to conquer. We just on the floor, handcuff, and they're gone. And that is how we deal with extortion. So had the sword still been there, anybody who had extortion in your business, you bring it to our attention. We put our manager there. As soon as you come to the manager to ask for your money, we take your wicket. Extortion ended. Same thing with home invasion. You jump over the wall. We had all of the equipment, the 482 Gary, the body cameras, the undercover officers, the dashboard cameras, the operational command center. By the time you jump back over, we either taking your wicket or you'll end up like a strainer. And the same thing again with kidnapping. Kidnapping stopped. The reason why kidnapping stopped is again because of the Special Operation Response Team. Over a dozen persons were rescued whilst being held by kidnappers. Now we've gone back to ransom being paid, and then you have newspapers saying, well, the individual, they were rescued. They were not rescued. Paying the ransom increases the product of opportunity for kidnappers to continue to commit the crime. And now, because public trust and confidence has moved from 59% when I was commissioner to now 8%, it means that people are not even reporting it to the police. So welcome to the PNM. The only way we could put an end to kidnapping, to home invasion, to extortion is to remove the PNM in the next election.
Wow, Mike, you anything go? That's it.
I think that is consensus.
That's it.
Consensus.
So
Wow.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Wow.
got
Your closing comment.
Same to you.
Thank you so much, Gary Griffith. Wow.
Okay, gentlemen. Take care. Bye-bye.
Wow.